There's a special kind of rage that only video games can create. That deep, soul-scorching frustration that hits when you drop full price on a brand new release, boot it up, and realize within minutes that it's broken beyond repair. Everything on your end is working perfectly, yet the moment the game starts, something feels off. It's stuttering and glitching with occasional crashes, and suddenly, you're wondering how something this broken made it to shelves. Then you remember, this isn't the first time. In fact, this is becoming a pattern. What started as disappointment has turned into a running theme in Australian gaming, and by now, the culprit is all too familiar. Big Ant Studios. Now, if you've never heard of them, congratulations. You've avoided some serious pain. But if you've ever tried to play a cricket sim, an AFL game, or a rugby league title over the last decade, odds are you've crossed paths with Big Ant Studios. And if you're still waiting for them to finally get it right, I've got bad news. Rugby League 26, Big Ant Studios' latest release, is already being widely slammed as one of the worst sports games of the year. From the moment it launched, players ran into a flood of issues. Crashes, invisible players, broken menus, laggy career modes, and physics that feel like they were thrown together at the last minute. It's glitchy, unstable, and barely holds itself together, wrapped in a polished exterior that hides a completely unfinished product. But none of this is new. It's just the latest addition to a long, frustrating history of rushed, undercooked games that have cemented Big Ant Studios' reputation for all the wrong reasons. Founded all the way back in 2001, Big Ant was supposed to be a win for Aussie sports fans. Finally, there would be a developer who's dedicated to the sports we actually care about. Cricket, rugby league, tennis, AFL, the niche stuff. And honestly, that idea had potential. These are passionate communities where people live them. So when someone promises to bring them to life on screen, expectations go through the roof. But Big Ant has never really delivered. At best, their games are janky but playable. At worst, they're catastrophes held together by duct tape and day one patches. Let's take it back to 2014 when Big Ant Studios dropped Don Bradman Cricket 14. There was genuine excitement at the time. After all, it was one of the first proper cricket sims in years. While it had its flaws, such as stiff animations, awkward controls, and some questionable ball physics, it showed enough potential to get fans on board. People were hopeful. They were willing to overlook the rough edges in anticipation of future improvements, and over the next few years, Big Ant Studios followed up with Don Bradman Cricket 17, Ashes Cricket, and eventually Cricket 19, all aiming to build on that original foundation. But instead of real progress, players started noticing a pattern. Animations felt reused, bugs from older titles mysteriously returned, and the career modes offered little evolution. Worst of all, the gameplay began to feel repetitive, as if each new release was simply treading water rather than moving forward. By the time Cricket 22 dropped, patience was wearing thin. The game launched with broken servers, missing features, and more polish issues than anyone was willing to excuse. The same long-standing issues were still there, like the uninspired commentary, the presentation that looked half done, and gameplay that hadn't had any significant improvements. It was as if the developers had taken the last version, made a few cosmetic changes, and rushed it out the door under a new name. But maybe cricket wasn't their thing. Maybe tennis would be the breakthrough. Enter AO Tennis in 2018. On paper, it should have been a smash hit. It had official licenses, big name players, detailed stadiums, but the game was a mess. It launched almost empty, the AI couldn't rally to save its life, and the physics felt like something out of a bad tech demo. Big Ant Studios promised fixes, and to be fair, AO Tennis 2 was a step up. But even then, the improvements weren't enough to erase the studio's growing reputation for mediocrity. Jump to 2025, and Rugby League 26 might just be Big Ant Studios' most disastrous release yet. From launch day, frustration poured in as reports arose of constant crashes, broken game modes, corrupted saves, and player animations that looked completely unpolished. Even basic menu navigation was glitchy, with some players unable to make it past the tutorial without the game freezing. And this is where things get frustrating. Big Ant isn't some overnight indie dev figuring things out. They've been in the game for over 20 years. They've released more than a dozen sports titles. They've had time to improve, time to listen, and time to evolve. but every release feels like they're starting from scratch and not in a good way. The tech doesn't advance and the gameplay doesn't grow. It's the same recycled assets, the same sluggish mechanics, and the same band-aid patches that arrive weeks too late. A big part of the problem lies in how Big Ant approaches development. The studio consistently stretches itself too thin, taking on multiple sports titles at once instead of focusing on perfecting a single one. Each of these games demands its own mechanics, systems, and presentation, and none of them are simple to replicate. Building a solid sports sim takes time, resources, and deep attention to detail, and Big Ant Studios rarely has the bandwidth to deliver that across the board. The short development cycles only make things worse, forcing rushed launches and patchwork updates. Big Ant Studios holds a kind of monopoly, but rather than using that position to raise the bar, they've repeatedly failed to meet even the basic expectations of their fanbase. There's also a design issue. Their games often feel lifeless. Big Ant Studios titles feel like they're just ticking off checkboxes where games are functional enough to ship, but not nearly finished enough, leaving players frustrated. Even when they get something right, like Cricket 19's graphics or AO Tennis 2's improved AI, it's not enough to outweigh the rest of the package. The sad part is Big Ant actually secures official partnerships and uses that branding to sell hope. Hope that maybe this time the game will live up to the badge, but it rarely does. What makes all of this so much worse is that the communities behind these sports are incredibly loyal. But time after time, Big Ant Studios only deliver the bare minimum and then expect applause for showing up. They could have turned things around when Nakken took over in 2021. With more funding and proper development time, things should have started improving. But that hasn't been the case. The same issues keep slipping through. Games still launch in rough shape, player feedback goes nowhere, and familiar bugs continue to show up. After a while, it stops feeling like mismanagement and starts to look like they've accepted this as the norm. When you're the only developer making games for entire sports and still missing the mark this badly, it's hard to root for you. And while there's technically still time for Rugby League 26 to get fixed, first impressions matter, and more than that, trust matters. Right now, Big Ant Studios doesn't have much of either. This leaves fans in a frustrating spot. When one studio controls the only licensed games for entire sports and still can't deliver something reliable, it becomes hard to stay supportive. The community doesn't want another apology, they want a finished game. They want a developer that takes pride in what it makes. Whether that's possible anymore remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, if Big Ant Studios keeps going down this path, they won't just be known as Australia's worst video game developer. They'll be known as the studio that wasted the best chance any of these sports had at getting the games they deserve. But what do you think? Is Big Ant Studios beyond saving, or do they still have a shot if they finally listen to the community? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss future breakdowns like this one. And hey, if you've got a topic you want us to cover next, let us know below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay curious.